I want to give a small lecture about the periventricular cystic confusions. There are many names to these periventricular cysts. Subependymal pseudocysts, another 5, another periventricular cavitation, another 4, another 4, and there are at least another 4 names. In the literature, everyone who published an article regarding this cyst invented a new name. The aim of this presentation are to reduce functional to the functional from 15 to 4 functional names to help you to distinguish between these cysts. Periventricular leukomalacia is the first group of the cysts I want to speak about, or PVL. Periventricular leukomalacia is caused by an ischemic injury to the white matter adjacent to the lateral ventricles. After cleaning by phagocytes, the lesions appear in the ultrasound as small cysts. Many mental retardation or cerebral palsy invariably occurs in infants with large bilateral cysts. Even small focal unilateral cysts are associated with 50 to 80% risk of mental retardation or cerebral palsy. Risk factors for development of periventricular leukomalacia are sepsis, meningitis in neonates or children, hypoxia, and hypoxia in the fetuses, including seizures. The first group is the periventricular leukomalacia, and in ultrasound we should see they're high above the ventricles or rostral. Relatively, they are far away from the ventricles. They are not adjacent to the ventricles. Usually asymmetrical, not round, not beautiful round cysts. Usually many cysts, and usually in the 3rd trimester. Some example of these cysts: sagittal, coronal views. Another, it's in the neonate. And histology of these cysts. In ultrasound in utero, this is the ventricle, and just in 3rd trimester. Okay, this is the first group. The second group, these are the subependymal pseudocysts. Ultrasound, almost at the top of the ventricle and frontal lobes. Almost at the tops, there is a sagittal section of these cysts, usually bilateral, small, elongated cysts, appear in the 3rd trimester. We call them pseudocysts because the ependyma, it's like a placental abruption, or it's like a ependymal abruption. It's not a real cyst. It's pseudocyst, and we can see that there is no structure of a cystic lesion. And 3rd trimester, ventricular subependymal pseudocysts. The 3rd group are interventricular cysts. I call them conatal cysts in ultrasound. Actually, they are intraventricular. They are not periventricular in the anterior arm. In the moderate cysts, like small grapes in the anterior wall and in the 3rd trimester. And these are the cysts, MRI. And in ultrasound, the 4th group, the most complicated group, is the ganglionic eminence cysts. Ganglionic eminence are transient proliferative embryonic structures of the ventral telencephalon, which are located on the lateral wall of frontal lobes of the lateral ventricles with slight extension into the temporal horns. And here is a micro MRI of a fetus week 12 abortion, and here is the thalami. It's adjacent to the thalami, gangliotic eminence. And usually the cells from the gangliotic eminence are travel perpendicular to the radial glial cells and creates the real cortex. And ganglionic eminence. And according to the weeks, week 15, very large, week 20, week 26, week 29, week 36, and about 1 year of life, they disappear. Ultrasound. The most important that in coronal views, they are inferior or caudal or low. From inner lateral wall to the ventricular space, sometimes encircled by solid structure, might be single, might be many. If not secondary to bleeding or infection, first and early second trimester appearance. And the first to describe it in uteron was Italian Claudio Girolandino in 201 in the fetus net, and he called it striatal necrosis. You can see this cyst. And since 201, I call this cyst as striatal cyst. It's another name. But the more appropriate name is the ganglionic eminence, and which was first described in the fetuses by fetal MRI by Regini from Italy. And he described these cysts. Another article he published in 2016, the first to describe ultrasound diagnosis of ganglionic eminence cysts is Prefumo, also from Italy, in 219, only 3 years ago. And here is ultrasound appearance of these cysts, and in MRI it's clearer. It's from this article. Actually, from 201, I have 9 cases of, I call them striatal tears, but the proper name is GE cysts. And all of them, at a bad prognosis, all of them were associated with other severe brain syndrome, like in this case, Rain syndrome, week 18, striatal cyst and necrosis. It was with holoprosencephalus, week 15. And another case, week 16, with trisomy 13. Another case which was secondary to brain atrophy. Another case which was with abnormal exome. And it is encircled by solid structure in some of the cases. Even today, even the best sonologists cannot distinguish between this cyst and periventricular pseudocyst. And this is a case, publication of one, to my opinion, one of the best brain sonologists in the world. And he described, his lecture was about his article was about the periventricular pseudocyst. And he gave this case week 16, which is not typical for periventricular pseudocyst, which had a bad prognosis secondary to CMV, and he called them periventricular pseudocyst, but it's clearly GE cysts. My first take-home message, we reduce the name from 15 to more functional to 4, PVL, subependymolar pseudocyst, SEPC, intraventricular cyst, conatal cyst, and ganglionic eminent cyst. Take-home 2. The SEPC, subependymolar periventricular cyst, appears usually in this region. And here are the cysts. The conatal or intraventricular anterior frontal cysts are like grapes, appears inside the ventricle. The periventricular leukomalacia usually appear above the ventricles. And ganglion eminent cysts usually appear in this region. These two cysts are transient. To my experience, always disappear without any sequela. And these two cysts, kind of cysts, always had a bad prognosis. Thank you for listening.